Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
Today we're going to do something that Apple hasn't done in a long time.
Today we'll show you how to upgrade your Mac Pro. Welcome to Know How, the show where we show how to do stuff. Ayaz Akhtar is here.
Howdy.
Normally, you're the nerd who knows, but today, I get to show you how to do something.
Well, this is fantastic. This is my second-year anniversary at Twit, and so
Happy
what Leo
anniversary.
gave me for my anniversaries, I don't have to do the prep for the show. Leo knows what we're doing. We're upgrading a Mac Pro. Now, I have a 2008 Mac Pro, which is aging, and Apple just doesn't update these machines very often.
Tim Cook promised Mac Pro owners something for them. He didn't say a new Mac Pro, just something for Mac Pro owners at the end of this year.
It might be a statement that they're going to cancel the Mac Pro, but it's something.
So what's interesting about this is the most recent Mac Pro. This is mid 2010, so it's almost 3 years old.
Vintage PC.
It was, I don't even want to tell you, it was over $6,000. We loaded this thing up, and I've been using it as my beast. You know, it's a Nehalem processor, 8 cores. It's 2 quad-core processors in here, running at 2.4 gigahertz. But there's some problems. It's an old video card. It's an ATI Radeon video card that even when it came out wasn't the state-of-the-art video card. And I think there's other things we can do to speed this up. So we're going to show you some upgrades you can make to the Mac Pro. The very first, probably most important one, is putting an SSD in. I like SSDs. Solid-state drives are the fastest way to get stuff off of and onto a hard drive. They're getting cheaper. Most laptops now ship with solid-state drives, and even many desktops. I just bought the new iMac. That comes with the Apple Fusion drive. What that is a solid-state drive fused to a spinning drive to give you 3 terabytes of storage.
And seen as one logical volume, and there's all kinds of weird moving of files with the Fusion drive, correct?
Yeah, in fact, it's not clear. Apple doesn't say what it does. You can get Fusion on the iMacs and some Mac Minis, and it seems to be pretty fast. I've done some benchmarks. In fact, I'll show you the benchmarks in just a little bit on the Fusion drive. They say, in effect, that it's moving most often accessed files onto the solid-state drive and leaving files you access less often on the spinning drive, and if it does that intelligently enough, you should see some improvement. I was going to make a Fusion drive, and then I started reading into it. It's not that hard to do. Apple doesn't support it. That's one negative on it, and you have to go to the command line to do it, but it's using Core Storage, which is an Apple technology in the latest version of OS X. It's not very difficult to do. It's just a handful of Core Storage commands, and it's almost like making a RAID drive, where you take the solid-state drive and you'll merge it with the spinning drive to look like one drive. But after I looked at benchmarks, after I looked at how the Fusion drive works on my iMac, and most importantly, after I considered some of the negatives, things like it's very hard to take it apart later, I decided maybe I'm not going to get the most benefit out of this expensive solid-state drive. I went out to Otherworld Computing. I've bought solid-state drives from them before, and they recommended not buying an eSATA external drive, which is what I've bought for my laptops, but this is a PCI Express card. And the solid-state drive is actually sitting in these 2 sockets. This is kind of how the MacBook Pro Retina and other MacBooks do it. 2 socketed slots on here. Now, there's a reason that's cool. As capacities go up on these and prices go down, I can actually upgrade this.
That's an upgradable
SS
unit right
drive.
there?
Yeah, I could take these out of the socket and put new ones in there. Right now, it's 2 120 gigabyte units, so that's a 240 gigabyte SSD drive. But the key here is this is going to go on PCI Express.
So eSATA or SATA usually goes, a SATA 2 goes 6 gigabits per second max.
Yeah, that's the max for SATA 3 actually.
And this is not going to be anywhere near as slow
This
as
is
that.
a lot faster. This is many gigabytes or megabytes per second. The Mac Pro has a PCI 2 card on here, and we're going to put it in one of the why don't we open this up? We'll show you first of all how beautiful and easy it is to open a Mac Pro. You've done it before. You found the magic lever. There's no screws to remove. You just flip the lever and this just slides right out. Nice piece solid of aluminum.
That's a pretty soft piece of aluminum, by the way. I've dented those, so be careful with those.
Hey, it's an
sharp
old
edges as
computer.
well.
What do we care? Now, the other thing you see is how nicely the insides of this are. I mean, there's no wires floating around. If you've ever looked inside a PC, even if it's one that was made by a company designed to look good, it's not going to look as good as this. The heat sinks on here. Everything is just beautiful. This is the video card. Now, I've already replaced the existing ATI Radeon with this. In fact, it was kind of cool. When I decided to do this just a couple of weeks ago, Sapphire shipped this. This is the Radeon HD 7950. And in theory, this card is a lot faster.
Now, it says on the box, works with Mac Pro because Apple OS X does not support every single graphics card out there. At least that's been the case.
That's what I thought. I'm going to tell you some other things I learned after I paid $450.
This is an AMD card.
They charge you $50 more for this Radeon.
But it's white, and it's got the Mac logo on it. Look.
And there are some advantages. It has a switchable firmware, so you can go into Windows or Mac.
Okay.
And one of the reasons you might want a Mac version of a video card is because when you boot up the Mac, you'll see the full boot sequence, the UEFI sequence, which you won't on a card that's not designed for the Macintosh. So that's the first thing we did. We put that in. And by the way, notice this guy is a beast. It uses 2 power connectors. Fortunately, the Mac motherboard supports 2 power connectors, so no problem with that. It's got a nice big heat sink on it. And now I'm also going to put in this SSD because we want to boot even faster. There are still some free PCI Express card slots. There's the 4X, and I think there's one 16X left. So if you've ever put a card in a PC, you'll feel very comfortable. This even looks like a PC card with the back plate like that. And it goes into a little slot. In fact, it's a little bit scary because unlike a PC, the Macintosh does not provide individual screws for each of these cards. Slides right in there. When you feel like it's pretty good, this is what you get.
You get a plate with 2 thumb screws.
You get a plate with 2 thumb screws. It makes it easy to access, but it makes me a little nervous as far as how easy it's going to be.
You can just lose that piece.
You know what? I'm going to put this aside because this is not the last upgrade we're going to do. I don't think I even have to close it. We'll just leave that open, plug it in, and shall we boot it up? You're in charge. You got the on-off switch.
Let's see if I can handle
this. So
this.
the first thing we're going to see, and by the way, I've connected HDMI, so you should be able to see this, Brian Burnett, our technical director, as we boot up. First thing we're going to see is how much faster this boots. I have done some benchmarks on the internal SSD running on PCI Express. It's the fastest hard drive I've ever seen. Read and write in excess of 500 megabytes a second, half a gigabyte a second. It actually maxed out the Blackmagic disk test engine I was using, and it's about 50% faster than even the very fast SSD that I put in my MacBook Pro with Retina. We've already booted up, so let me just log in.
SSD, or
yeah.
Okay.
Now, that's one of the nice things about Macintoshes. I have 2 operating systems on here. In fact, I even have a third, and this is one thing I would very much recommend you do. I did this before the show started, which is use SuperDuper or a similar program to make a bootable backup. This is a USB 3 drive. Of course, the Mac Pro, unfortunately, is only USB 2, but I can boot from this. So if I should screw something up, I'll be able to recover because this is my boot disk, the full boot disk, image copied using SuperDuper onto this. That's our emergency reserve. But the other thing that happened is it was booting off a eSATA drive in one of these sockets. By the way, 1, 2, 3, 4 slots, which is great. I'm only using 2 drives, two 1 terabit drives for these bays, but you could expand it quite a bit. Also, there's 4 slots for the SO DIMMs, or whatever the kind of DIMMs it uses. I only have 8 gigs of RAM in here. I decided not to up the RAM, but that would be another upgrade
That's
you could easily
always a good
do.
option.
Easy to do here. It just stops right in. So that booted up very fast. Let me just log in.
Yeah, so this is for the hard drives themselves. There's no cabling involved. You just pop out these sleds, put it in a hard drive, pop it in.
Couldn't be easier.
And that's what you could do with a 2.5-inch SSD if you wanted to. But again, Leo went with the PCIe Express.
Much faster because it's actually on the I/O bus instead of on the SATA bus.
That's going to be crazy fast.
The other thing is that with a Macintosh, you can choose. I have actually 3 different boot drives on here, 2 different operating systems. I have an OS X on an SATA drive, I have Windows on a SATA drive, and then on this SSD card, I've already put OS X on here. So I chose, before the show began, a startup drive on the SSD. When the SSD wasn't in there, it defaulted back to the SATA drive.
Test it out.
But as soon as I put the SSD in there, you saw how fast that booted.
Cool. Didn't know that.
We're getting amazing speeds on this thing, and that's the reason I decided not to do the Fusion drive. I wouldn't get speeds anywhere near this. I can show you some of our benchmarks, and we are on the network. Yep, we are. All right, now that means I can go to my Dropbox. I should have launched these ahead of time, Leo stuff. I have a whole benchmarks folder, and here's the Mac Pro. I'll show you the before just in case you're curious. This is the before on, and I use, as I mentioned, I use a really nice Blackmagic design program called Disk Speed Test. I was getting a write speed before of 100 megabytes per second. That's on the standard spinning SATA drive, and a very pathetic read speed of 108 megabytes per second. Let's put this away. I'll show you these. I don't want to show you my other results yet. No
spoilers.
No spoilers. Here's the Mercury. It literally maxed it out. I don't know if that's actually the fastest it can go. It's just the fastest the benchmark can go. 400, compare them again, 494 megabytes a second write speed, 638 megabytes a second read speed. Now you know I didn't do the Fusion drive. This is big enough that I can put the operating system and all my apps on it. And if you're a photographer or you're doing Final Cut and you want to get maximum speed, it's big enough that you could put your current project on it. Use the spinning slower drive as backup, as archive. Maybe, you know, put your whole Lightroom catalog on there. But man, I don't want to give up 494 megabytes a second. I've never seen such a fast write speed in my life.
That is absolutely crazy. So the write speed is almost 4 times greater, or larger than 4 times. On read speed, 6 times. That is incredibly fast.
This is about $400 for this drive. The single most important upgrade you can do. Now, here's the disappointment. For $450, we bought this Sapphire card, and I haven't been able to figure this out. Ryan Schratt from PC Per is here. He was helping me look at the benchmarks. Very disappointing results on the upgrade to the new video card. I used a program called Cinebench from Maxon, which measures both CPU and frame rate. One would think that I'm looking at before and after. It's actually the opposite. It slowed the computer down.
So on the left side, that's the new card.
This is the new card, 26.96 frames per second compared to almost 30 frames under the original card. Now, what's going on here? I have no idea, but Ryan thinks it probably has to do with the OpenGL stack. It does use OpenGL. This is an OpenGL test. That's the graphics rendering engine that Apple's use. It's a beta version of this stack. We think it'll probably get better. We also did a frame rate test in Portal 2, and we got about 30 frames per second more. It was 100 frames per second with the old card, 130 with the new card. In my opinion, not enough.
Not worth the $450.
For $450.
Yikes.
A little disappointing.
And there's the other thing is they made for Mac systems when it comes to graphics cards. If you go to the Apple Store online, you see what, like there's 4, maybe 5 options that are officially supported by Apple. Here's the page.
There's not even that many.
If you start scrolling,
Apple still offers the 2 original Radeons that came with the Macs, the 5770. That's the one I have for $250. That's a 4-year-old graphics card. So the Sapphire card just came out. Sapphire just started offering that. It's still even not on the Apple Store. $450 is about $50 more than Windows folks pay for their version of this ATI 7950. It's a great card. The horsepower in here is great. It may also be that this Portal 2 isn't a good example because it's CPU bound in the way we're using it with maximum settings. It's not a very demanding card. Tonight when I go home, I'll leave this card in. I already bought it, and I might try installing BioShock Infinite. And that will be a little bit better test of this. And I'll come back next week and let you know how it did. Awesome. But for right now, boy, that was unimpressive. We got a great bump with the Otherworld Computing Mercury Accelerator. About $400. You can, depending on capacity, you can spend more, you can spend less. It's not such a great bump with the video card. But as I was doing this, I learned something very intriguing. I'm going to try this for the first time ever on this stage.
What could possibly go wrong?
let me shut down the computer because we're going to put in a different video card. This is a GeForce GTX 670.
Wait, I don't see the Mac logo anywhere.
This is a Windows card from Gigabyte. A lot of companies make this, MSI, Gigabyte, and so forth. This came out shortly after the Radeon, the 7950. So it's roughly the same speed. Both of these are almost a year old now. But this is a nice kind of mid-range $300, $350 card that PC enthusiasts like for gaming. You can get the 680. You can even spend $1,000 on the Titan. But here's what I learned that I was kind of stunned to learn. Since OS X 10.8, Apple's included drivers for Windows cards. Would you open that box while I take the old?
That is something that they don't publish very often, right?
I had no idea. So in theory, and we've never tried this. This is a brand new box. You're opening this up for the first time, Ayaz Akhtar. In theory, this vanilla, lower-priced Windows video card should work just fine. What do you think?
I think that...
Am I nuts? Am I crazy? Let's pop out the Sapphire.
I'd love to see what happens. I mean, in my experience when it came to OS X, Apple was not very, very big on the idea of supporting multiple things like this. But then again, since Macs basically become PCs, it's not that surprising to believe.
So one of the reasons I tried this is there's somebody in our chat room who has used this for some time in a Hackintosh, and he says it works just fine. You can see it's got massive heat sinks on the GPU here and 3 fans. This is a nicely built card from Gigabyte. I'm going to take the plastic protectors off. I mean, this is proof. Never used it before. There's a negative I'll say right now. I already can see. One of the nice things...
There's one more plastic piece, kind of.
Yeah, I'll take that one off. One of the nice things about the Sapphire version, it has 2 mini display ports, actually the regular display ports, HDMI and DVI. Do you see? I don't see. I'm looking. Do you see any DisplayPort adapters on that new 670? I don't. So I'm going to need to. What do I do, Ryan Shroud? How am I going to be able to connect that up to my display? I need an adapter. Full-size display. That's a full-size display port right here. So I'm going to have to get an adapter. I don't have one, but we do have HDMI, so we'll be able to see it.
Okay.
Nice, it's got dual link DVI. You know, for older monitors that would work
great. Your monitor here, this is an Apple Cinema display. This one has the display port.
It's got mini display port. So one of the things that I should mention is the newer ones, and I've purchased one to go with my MacBook Pro Retina. The newer Cinema displays use Thunderbolt.
Okay.
And many people want to know, how do I get Thunderbolt on a Mac Pro? There's no Mac Pro with Thunderbolt. You could probably add Thunderbolt 2 as an extra card. You might be able to get a video card with Thunderbolt. No guarantee it would work right because no one knows how Apple is getting video out through Thunderbolt.
Right.
That's a proprietary thing. It's not a standard. So what I did find out is that Thunderbolt and Mini DisplayPort are compatible. So I can use my Thunderbolt monitor and my Mini DisplayPort monitor as a dual monitor setup, at least with this Sapphire card, because it has 2 mini display ports. I'll have to get an adapter to make it work with the HDMI. HDMI and mini display port are basically the same, or the standard size display port. We'll put the HDMI in. We'll at least know if it booted. You ready? Now, where am I going to connect? Okay, once again, these cards require such huge amounts of power. Can you look in that box? Because it looks like I need a different kind of cable for the power cable. We don't want to use the ATI cables on here.
Oh, here we go.
We'll take out the power dongles. Okay, another problem. Problem number 2. Because it's not designed for a Mac, it's designed for a PC, we may never be able to use this. These are the power dongles. You recognize those? Those are the Molex connectors that go to standard power supplies on PCs. The Apple comes off the motherboard. It's a different kind of connector. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to make this work. You see, this is the connector that goes onto the motherboard. Let's take a look at this. It looks like...
That's all we got for cables.
Yeah,
here.
no, and that's what we need. We need 2 of them. One of them is 8-pin, one of them is 6-pin, and that's what the Gigabyte card requires. 1 8-pin and 1 6-pin right here to power the card. Unfortunately, I thought maybe I'll try the connectors that came with the Sapphire, but they're both 6-pin. What do you think? Should I just maybe plug it in? Maybe it just kind of might work?
You want to try it? It's your machine.
Ryan, what do you think? I think not.
We can plug it into anything on this side anyway.
The cable should work.
Which cables?
The old ones?
The one you got in your hand.
You think so?
Turn them around.
Turn them around? Even though they have fewer pins than I need? Which side should I go into?
So we got less pins. We'll just kind of rig it.
You see what I'm saying? One of them's 8 and one of them's 6. They screwed me. Now, I can, of course, get an adapter for these. I just never opened the box, so I didn't know. But these are the kind of things, if you're taking a PC card and making them work on a Mac Pro, you're going to have to consider. You've got to get the right kind of power adapter. You're going to have to...
Probably why it's very popular with Hackintoshes, because you're using motherboards and you have the access to all kinds of different things that aren't designed by Apple.
I'm a little disappointed because I was really looking forward. Excuse me. What do you think? Should I try it with 1 connector? It'll make a loud sound if it doesn't work, right?
Try it with 2.
Try it with 2, says Ryan.
You think? With the 2 6-pins, Ryan Shroud.
Ryan Shroud, PC Per is off camera.
One of the things about PC Perspective, they review all these cards. They try them all. Nobody has more experience doing this. And if it doesn't work or it bursts into flame, he doesn't care. So I'm going to trust him.
Let's do it.
But Ryan,
I love this look.
Which end should I plug it into?
Only fit in 1.
All right, let me see. I'm sorry about the coughing. You're right. There's a square. It's keyed.
Yep.
All right.
So you know what? It might just work. All right.
Well, it's an Apple product. Well, this thing is. It'll just work.
Is this exciting? Never before tried on any stage.
Probably
Here.
for good reason. What am I doing?
Just hold that. Don't spit on it. And whatever you
What?
do, make sure you've discharged all static electricity.
Okay, I'm going to
Notice,
by the carpet and start
by the
rubbing my
way,
foot on it.
I don't wear one of them funny old wrist straps. I don't tie myself to a cold water pipe. I'm a man. I don't care about static electricity. Go ahead. Make it.
We're going to get you a rocking chair to keep this up.
Ryan, do you do that in Kentucky?
With coughing, it's pretty dusty.
Excuse me, I'm gonna
Kentucky.
get a drink of water here. This is ridiculous. No, Ryan, do you wear a wrist strap when you do this kind of stuff? No, nobody does.
Well, you also don't want to be doing. I'm sure you don't do this in like in a carpeted area or something silly. Oh, always
I
carpeted?
slide my feet in my bunny slippers.
Right.
No. We used to get letters all the time on the screensavers because we get, as Ryan does, we get very cavalier about this stuff. Absolutely. Static electricity is death to all of these components. They're very fragile to the millions of volts. It's low amperage, so it doesn't hurt you, but it's a lot of volts. So always wear a grounding strap tied to a cold water pipe or touch the body of the computer. I like to unplug it, but so unplug it, touch it, then unplug it because that's a ground. And yeah, don't rub your feet along a carpet or anything like that before you do
I mean, the thing is, that one time it does happen, and you actually fry one of these things.
I have never fried anything.
It has to be a theoretical thing. I'm sure Mythbusters tried it. I've never done it. I don't know why you would try to do that.
I got to cut down on the camels, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
All right.
That ad campaign did not work on you.
I know. Okay, let's see this. Do you think this is going to start up? This is kind of wild.
I think we're going to get some power to it. I don't know if we're going to get a display out.
Well, we'll see.
Especially
All right.
since we only have HDMI out. Let's see what's going to happen.
Well, we're going to have HDMI. I think that'll work. It's fit. You know, the thing about PCI Express, at least it's a standard bus. And now that the real issue usually is drivers, right?
Right.
And where are you going to get a Mac driver if Apple doesn't supply it? Well, Apple does supply drivers now for all of the PC, most of the PC cards, and apparently this card will work just fine without any additional drivers. I don't know. That seems unlikely.
I mean, it's an NVIDIA card, right? So, and that's what Apple supports these days. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's another point. We were talking with Ryan. If you make a Hackintosh these days, you almost always want to use an NVIDIA card like this 670 because that's what's in the latest Apples. They stopped using ATI cards.
So is that lining up okay? It seems like it's...
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure it's seated. All right.
Do we want to use that?
Yeah!
Do we want to use that plate to seat it a little better?
No, because you know what? I don't think it's going to work. So
Okay, let's do
I
that.
see no reason to screw it in. Let's just plug it in and see what happens.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'm loving this.
All right, let's take a bet
it's
with
ready?
our know-how listeners.
Are we plugged in there?
All right, wait a minute now. Let me think about it. Okay, go ahead. Turn it on.
Okay.
Cross your
Hit the button.
fingers. Did Ryan throw up his hands? That's just not right. That's just not right.
Well, that's how you get reliability removed. Just like,
Okay,
"Ah."
okay.
All right, so it's starting up. We got little...
Is it starting? Is the light on? Fans are
I hear
going.
the Mac noise.
I feel the fans.
Fans are going at least.
Drum roll, please. Wow!
It has not exploded yet.
Are you seeing anything on the HDMI yet?
Not yet.
You probably won't because we're in the UEFI boot period, which does not work with PC cards. That's the biggest issue. You won't see the early stages of boot. You may not see the later stages of boot. God only knows.
I'm very, very interested in how this is going to turn out because I have not tried this. This is not a gag, and I'm just curious about the power issue that might be here.
That's the biggest issue is we don't have the right. The hard drive is accessing. I see the SSDs lighting up. Do you see any HDMI video yet?
We got
Yeah.
nothing. But that could be...
Now, typically, if we didn't have enough power to the card, it would actually complain a little bit, I think. So I'm not sure what's going on. The
Fans look like they're going.
fans are moving.
They sound like they're going.
Somebody in the chat room said, and this was one of the things we thought might have something to do with the benchmark issues, that having the PCI SSD card in there was using up some of the bandwidth on the PCI Express bus. But I talked to Ryan, he said, unless you're saturating it with a lot of data access over the SSD, you're probably not going to impact the video card. There's enough bandwidth on that bus that that's probably not the problem.
So you got
Still
nothing
nothing,
there?
huh? What we don't know, now I wonder, do we have HDMI to mini HDMI in our voluminous collection?
We could just use HDMI to that TV over there and just see if it just outputs anything.
The TV would be less picky than the TriCast.
Okay, go ahead, try it.
So what we need to do now is get an HDMI. What are you pointing
Alex
at?
is pointing.
Unplug this. Tell me what I'm doing.
I do have Windows on here. We could always boot Windows, but the problem is you can't see
Okay.
to boot it. I'd have to boot it blind.
This is like...
What is that going to be?
This is going to go to the TV. Where's the HDMI on this TV?
Oh, who knows?
Burke knows. He knows
Burke,
all.
come here, Burke.
Where the?
It's on this side.
It's on that side.
Well,
Watch
the
your feet.
fact that it's working, and the fans are on is a good sign. I mean, at least it's getting enough power to spin up the fans.
That's a USB.
In any event,
Don't mind me. I'm just going to do this. This is what we're doing.
won't you
because
laugh if I see a login screen for a Macintosh there?
I'm trying to get into this spot. This is tight. Okay, that's plugged in.
It's probably true that not all video
Where's that
cards
HDMI
will
cable
work, so
going?
you want to check, of course, with Apple to make sure it does. This one is
right,
one
so-
that supposedly does.
I switched out the HDMI cable in the back, and that's what we're
We're not
getting
getting
right
any
now.
video out of there.
Yes, that was the first one. That's why it doesn't say know-how anymore. And so, what we have is, don't do this.
Well, it's a couple possibilities. It could be there's not enough power because we don't have the proper power case. What's that? Oh, let's see here what this looks like. Look at that.
Take 6.
There's a man. Mini DisplayPort to DisplayPort. How about that?
Let's try that. Let's mail to
This is-
mail.
this-
How we're going to attach the,
It's mail to mail. What would that be good for?
not this. We're going to need a coupler.
We're going to have to
Every-
ask the Supreme Court on that one.
Everybody, let's not get political today.
Yeah. What
Well,
would this be any good for, mail to
shouldn't-
mail?
Well, if you had a display that had a female in, which we don't have.
No, unfortunately, these are normaled into the. Are they?
This is the
Yeah, these are normaled in, so we
This is
can't.
the Apple Cinema display. This is not a. Well, I mean, I have a bunch of Dell Ultra Sharps, and we could probably hook it up to those things. But what we're seeing now with HDMI, nothing. I'm not sure what difference it would make if we switch it to DisplayPort, but I'd love to see. Switching out.
All right, switch that to DisplayPort, but I just need something to plug this into now.
We need a monitor. What does that have? Huh? Don't mind me. I'll just.
All right,
monitor the studio.
I think we're gonna call it. We're gonna say we don't know if the 670 will work. I will go back to the workshop. I will find the right connectors. We'll get the power connectors working. We will also get the output working. It's actually a very important lesson, which is if you're going to use a PC card, you're going to run up against some roadblocks, things like not
Absolutely.
having the right power connectors, not having the right video connectors. Maybe that's why it's worth paying a little bit more. The other point to make is, yeah, this was $100 more for this Sapphire version of the 7950, the Mac version, but it has everything, it works. And in terms of the video card performance, this should be very similar to the 670. So I'll tell you what, we'll leave this. Oh, wait a minute, what do you got there? Is it a monitor with a
DisplayPort.
DisplayPort?
DisplayPort, but that's.
It's regular. Do you have a
But we're gonna need a regular display.
DisplayPort?
No.
I get one from the base.
So we could keep searching for this. But you know what? This is how a lot of my projects go, by the way.
John says we could look in the basement. Let's not, John. Really? All right, go ahead. How much time do we have? No, we don't have enough time. We're out of time. I think that the
said it, not me.
point is well made. I do believe this will work. We know from the chat room people have used the 670
And Mac Pros.
in Hackintoshes.
Well, yeah, but that's.
But it's the same OS, right?
Theoretically.
10.8.3. So that shouldn't be the issue. The issue is really just getting the cabling and everything working. So my recommendation, unless you really need maximum video performance, I don't know if this is worth the $450, the Sapphire 7950. We really didn't see much of an improvement either on Portal 2 or our synthetic Cinebench benchmarks. I'll try it with BioShock Infinite. It might make a difference on something like that that's less CPU bound. Certainly Final Cut might benefit from it, Photoshop might benefit from it, but in general, I can't recommend this. I don't think it's enough of an improvement. You just don't have enough horsepower on the CPU side to justify a modern GPU.
That's too
On the
bad.
other hand, everybody benefits, every computer benefits from an SSD, and if you're lucky enough to have a bus that's got that much throughput on it, you're never going to see faster performance than that. I'm definitely keeping this
So-
Express Card SSD in here. That makes a huge difference. And my recommendation, probably not worth trying to make a Fusion drive out of it. You're going to compromise the performance and not really gain very much.
So take your money, put it for an SSD, maybe some more RAM if you're going to do anything like that.
I got 8 gigs. I figure that's enough.
8 gigs is never enough. I've got 12 on my old machine because it's really old. But
I believe on this Nehalem motherboard, by the way, you need to add RAM in pairs. I'll have to ask PC Per on that. But so you would go from the 8 to 16, or you might, if you wanted to get all new sticks, you could go up as high as 64K or gigs.
that might work versus this guy.
I don't, in my experience with anything more than 8 gigs, unless you're really doing something heavy RAM intensive, you probably don't need. Thank you very much. Now that
you know what works and what don't.
it doesn't, go out and upgrade your Mac Pro. What do you say?
Good luck and Godspeed.
Drive to Fry's.